Good evening, Ruth. Thanks very much for your time. Perhaps without getting to the specifics of this particular case, I mean, how often have you come across recently people who are now saying or finding that social media has now sort of become this problem area when it comes to bullying?
Well, bullying has always existed.
Yes.
The problem with social media is that it blows it up and that information and gossip is shared much more quickly and much more widely. So instead of, in the old days, maybe people would have sniggered at a picture, today within seconds it can be shared among so many people. And what is really hard to reinforce and to get children and teenagers and even adults to understand is that anything shared on social media is out of your control and cannot be private. And it's so hard for children to grasp that concept because suddenly they are so vulnerable. And so everything is exacerbated, everything is highlighted, and it makes it that much harder to deal with.
And of course, I mean, in this particular case, I mean, suicide is probably the worst form. You know, I mean, this... But there are other ways in which people, you know, find themselves like really disadvantaged or hurt by bullying, especially one that comes through this form, which is the social media. Yeah.
I think what we see here in terms of a suicide as a result is the sense that there was so much shame and humiliation, and obviously a belief that this was something that the child would never, ever get over and had completely ruined her life. And so I think that it really highlights how the cruelty of other people and children can have such a devastating impact for decades. And I think we need to teach children that the new cool is actually kindness. And because I think that even when kids are spreading things and enjoying it and gossiping and laughing, I don't think they have an idea of the kind of impact this has on the person who's being bullied. And I think we lose our compassion because we just see it as a screen. We don't realize they're people. And there has to be a whole cultural change of the way that we think about what we do to people. So this will be a shock, but the children involved have to realize that there are consequences and devastating permanent consequences. And even if you're just one of the people who's pressing share, you're culpable. Because it is just, and so I think that while the suicide is the most extreme version of just feeling.
Yes, because I mean, one thing of maybe other people who are affected by something like this who end up not coping at school, maladjusting, never again able to relate to many people, never realizing their dreams, you know, creating numerous, you know, other problems for their friends and families.
And I think that what it creates is this lack of trust and a sense that the world is going to hurt you and that you become this object of ridicule. And what people often don't realize is that very soon, without undermining the shame and humiliation, but there are ways of surviving it. But I do think, though, that there's so many people who live with hurt and sadness and depression and anxiety because not only have they been bullied, but they're worried that they might be the next victim.
And others actually could even be moved to seek revenge, which may have, you know, consequences for a whole lot of other people.
Yes. I do think that when social media, when people share things and get involved in the whole ridiculing of someone else, sometimes it's because they are relieved it's not them, but they often forget about the person. And it can leave a trail of destruction and despair, as we've seen with this incident.
And Beck, I mean, it's a point I know that can be overemphasized, that, as you said, the new cool is actually kindness.
Yes.
That's where we're going to leave it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For your time, clinical psychologist Ruth Enser.